Hey, welcome to Hot Route Takes. Today we're missing Chase, our other co-host here on the pod. Um, we had some technical difficulties recording earlier this week, and we had some personnel problems. Chase will not make it for this review pod of Week 5, but he will be on the preview of Week 6, which will be coming out early on Thursday morning. Along with this one, we're just trying to catch up and get the content out there. This is going to be kind of more of a speed round. We're going to try to run through the games that happened on Week 5. Starting off with the Thursday night game between the Chicago Bears and the Washington Commanders. I did pick the Bears in this football game just because I liked what I saw from Justin Fields the week prior, and that just continued in this football game where he racked up 282 passings, albeit 230 of the 282 to DJ Moore. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, got sacked 3 times though. Average of almost 19 yards per pass. So that's phenomenal. They got some stuff going on the ground as well, including Justin Fields tacking on 57 through the ground. And Sam Howell, no matter if it's against the worst defensive front in the league, still takes a lot of sacks. So maybe that's just going to be what Sam Howell is. I don't know. But I do know that this team rushing leader was Sam Howell in this football game. He ran for 19 yards on 4 carries, and the next highest was 6 carries for 10 yards. And that's just a colossal failure from a scheming perspective, running the ball to that extent that many times. I think they even broke a record for the most consecutive pass plays in a row, which is kind of bizarre. But yeah, Bears take this one pretty decidingly. Justin Fields has another good game, and maybe they continue to build some momentum off of this.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, you see what DJ Moore can do when he is implicated into the game changer. The only concerns on both sides I have for both teams, real quick, is just, I mean, DJ Moore was your only receiver for Chicago that even got a pass caught. So that's a big flag for me that, I mean, they got to get these other guys involved somehow. And you just had Chase Claypool out of the building, get traded. We hadn't talked about that any, but that's just, I mean, wasn't a big factor anyway for the team, but just, you don't have anything. Then the last little thing I'd hit on is just, I mean, I think they do have Foreman at running back. And then other than that, all the running backs are out moving forward for a little bit of time. Maybe, I think they might get one other guy. I think Johnson might come out of the concussion protocol room. And then on the Washington side, just, I mean, same kind of thing. I mean, the receivers did get into the game, but just where's Jahan Dotson been this season? It's kind of been my thing. Has not really been what he was last year for them. And just, I mean, Sam Howell can't throw for 51 times. You expect to win a game. You have to get the running game more involved. But I will say, Chicago took the lead early and just, I mean, when they did get the ball, I mean, they went down the field and scored, and that's just something we hadn't seen out of the Chicago team this year.
Yeah. You want to keep it rolling, Christian, on to the next week?
We go to London since the NFL is in love with London, just like it seems like Jacksonville Jaguars are. This their second game here. They played Buffalo Bills. A lot of people probably expected the Bills to come in and win this game. I mean, I did, but just Buffalo couldn't get the running game going at all. I think. Let me look. I mean, their leading rusher was Josh Allen with 4 carries. James Cook, their leading guy, had 5 carries for -4 yards. But I will say the receivers got it done. At Buffalo, I mean, I will say the offense was going. It's just no running game existed, and it's just a big kind of shot that did happen to Buffalo in this game is Matt Milano. He did suffer a fractured leg, potential season-ending knee injury. So I think that's a big loss for Buffalo moving forward. Definitely without Edmonds now. I mean, we just got done talking about Chicago. That's where he ultimately found his home this offseason. Then on Jacksonville's side, I mean, it was the Travis Etienne show. I mean, I will say Ridley did get going in this game. That's something moving forward. They need to at least try to get him involved because he's shown that he is a weapon when they get him involved. But I think Trevor Lawrence had a great day, no interceptions. He did have some fumbles that, I mean, were bad fumbles in this game. But other than his fumbles, Trevor Lawrence is looking kind of like he was, the end of last season. I mean, 25 for 37, 315 yards. But it was the Travis Etienne show. I mean, I will say Bigsby had the 3 carries for 8 yards. But I think moving forward, Jacksonville this needs to be the Travis Etienne show if this is the production that he can live up to. But, I mean, kind of a good game. Happy that both of these teams can finally leave London.
Yeah. Another note on that Bills team, they lost Daquan Jones, interior defensive lineman, as well as Matt Milano. So that's 2 weeks, losing maybe your top 3 players on your defense.
Yeah. Oh, also, White was a corner that went out late last year,
Last
was
week.
also missing.
He got hurt last week.
Oh, last week. You're right.
Against Miami near the end towards Achilles. So you hate to see that for Buffalo. All 3 of those likely are out for the season, so that's a big loss for Buffalo. And the other thing I thought I thought Buffalo would only lose when Josh Allen had a Josh Allen day where he's throwing the ball to the defense, but he did not do that in this football game. He played extremely well, 359 yards passing, and not a whole lot of mistakes, man. He played pretty clean football, and they still lost this game to Jacksonville. And, credit to Jacksonville. They played well, but Trevor Lawrence dang near tried to hand this game back to Buffalo with 3 fumbles lost. And that's kind of been the only downside I think you could point at in Trevor Lawrence's young career is he has put the ball on the ground a lot. The interceptions he's pretty much cleaned up, and he's pretty good at handling pressure and things like that until they get to him and they start knocking at the ball. He's put it on the ground a couple times, including 3 in this football game that really made this game a lot closer than it should have been because Jacksonville really played well on defense and on the offensive side of the ball. But moving on to the next game here, it is the Carolina Panthers with the Detroit Lions. And this one was pretty ugly. I think it was handled pretty decidingly in the trenches, with Detroit just kind of dominating line of scrimmage, both sides of the ball. And it seems to be a reoccurring theme with Detroit. I just think, their offensive line is dominant. I think they're really the best in the NFL, honestly. Best offensive line in the NFL. And then Panthers have a slew of issues. The receivers can't get open. Bryce Young is struggling to read the field. He's struggling to navigate the pocket. He kind of looks lost out there, man. It's just not been pretty so far this year. They ain't got no running game. The offensive line's beat up. And like I said, they ain't got receivers. They ain't got weapons. So I think it's just going to be ugly for the Panthers this season, unfortunately. But on the other side of things, Detroit's continuing to do what they do. They fed the ball to David Montgomery. He had a long run in this football game. He looked pretty good. Detroit just continues to impress me. Just an all-around team, man. The defense gets after it, and offense, they're a well-oiled machine. So I think Detroit is, if they didn't have the one loss in overtime to Seattle, they'd be 5-0. Maybe might be talking about Jared Goff MVP. Who knows?
Yeah.
Crazy, though.
Me on the Panther side, I really kind of agree with what you're saying. Just Bryce Young, we're seeing errors that he didn't do in college is my big takeaway from him right now. It's just he really just, I guess he's in a nice way you can word it. It's just he's trying his hardest. That's really, he's making the mistakes that he normally didn't make in college. Now you're seeing it in NFL. That means, what I just said, he's trying as hard as he can to do something. But like Brian said, just wide receivers can't do it. And then you have Miles Sanders that you just paid this contract to that was supposed to be your lead back, and he's dealing with injuries now. Yep. And your running game hadn't been existent because, like Brian said, the offensive line. So just with the Panthers this year, defense ain't living up. It's just not what you expected the Panthers are going to be at this point, probably. On the Lions side, when me and Chase tried to do this pod the first time, I did say this, kind of ready to see your reaction, but crazy or not, man, I'm going to go ahead and maybe say I think Jared Goff is elite, man. I thought about this long and hard before the pod, man. You can do what you want, man, but this is the new Jared Goff. I think, man, he's proved to me, at least at this point, enough for me to say
elite. So Mahomes, Herbert.
I don't think he's elite, but I think he's under that tier.
Okay.
He's
Tua's tier.
Oh, yeah, I'm going with Tua. I really would. I think him and Tua, you can low-key say, I ain't going to say their game is the same, but where they are fits them best is a good way to put it. Like Jared Goff go to another team, it's probably not going to look like this. But 20 for 28, 236, 3 touchdowns. And all his stats this year have been, 24 for 28, 20 something for, it's been right there. And that was without his top weapon, St. Brown, in this game. So I looked at that too, and this dude's still making it happen without his top weapon. But, like I said, before we start, had a couple little nuggets. I thought this one was a funny one, but Lions rookie Sam Laporta has more career touchdowns than Kyle Pitts, and he only had 3. So, and he had 2 this game, but I think, my biggest takeaway right now for Detroit, just to keep it, don't want to go down this rabbit hole too far, but just what you could have maybe spent the Gibbs pick on. I'm a big Gibbs supporter, but I mean, with Montgomery doing what he's doing more and more, what you could have did with that pick is a big question. Unless you get Gibbs more involved, is my big thing. But right now, it's just not looking like a good pick.
That could have been Christian Gonzalez. Christian, I've been saying that.
Yeah, but he's hurt right now. But granted, if he
Who
wouldn't
knows?
been New England,
Yeah,
what could have happened? But
yeah.
I will say the Lions are looking very good, definitely in their division, and their defense is, I will say, overperforming where I thought they'd be. Definitely the defense line. And Aiden Hutchinson, give him a little quick note. The pick he got on Bryce Young was nasty. And I mean, he's showing that he's a dog, and that pick was a good pick from them last year.
Yeah.
And then I'll start into the next game. This game, Chase was there. I mean, I wish he could maybe, say how it was. We maybe get him talk about it on the next pod. But I will say,
Desmond
Atlanta
Ridder?
is still, Desmond Ridder, that's where I was going to go with this. The performance he had last week and then coming into this and people calling his head and where is Heineke, I think he just put that to rest. I will say this dude played great. I mean, he did what he needed to for the game-winning drive. But, I mean, 28 for 37, 329, one touchdown. They got a bunch of their playmakers actually involved in this game, which I think Atlanta needed to do. I mean, Kyle Pitts has 7 catches. Drake London had 6 catches. Johnny Smith is having a good role in this game, or not in this game, but just in the season right now for them. I will say, running wise, I mean, they didn't do much running in this game, and that's why Desmond Ridder kind of had the day he had. But I will say on the Robinson side of thing, I mean, for one-handed catches, this guy's got to be up there because that's the only way he catches the ball for some reason. But I kind of said this last time. I think just Tyler, they need to kind of pull back on his carries. I think I want to see the Robinson show in full effect at this point. I want to say he's probably leading the league in broken tackles. He had a good many in this game, and just since he's been there, he has. And then on Houston's side, I mean, C.J. Stroud did what he needed to, definitely for their game-winning drive. I mean, he went down there, scored points, and then they actually got Dalton involved, tight end that they picked up this offseason, which I think they needed to do. And just Pierce, they try to run the ball. I will give them credit, but I just think sometimes they need to get away from that at this point. Maybe go back to what they were doing at the beginning of the season. Just let C.J. Stroud kind of cook. But Tank Dell did go out with a concussion. And then Nico Collins didn't have a big field day like he did, like he's kind of been doing all season. But I will say that this was a great game, better than I thought. Came down to the wire, came down to what Youngku winning the game-winning kick. And, I mean, just Houston did everything they could to win this game. It's just Desmond Ridder had other plans.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd ever hear that, honestly. Desmond Ridder had other plans. He's going to will his team to victory. Credit to him, man. Credit to this Falcons offensive line. Credit to the weapons finally showing up for him. Kyle Pitts sighting finally, like you said. And I'm interested to see more Bijan Robinson as we go forward. This was kind of a quiet game for him. He had a fumble lost. But you got to be impressed with the Falcons offense. And I know I didn't see this coming. I'll just say that. And this opens things up for the ground game, man. If they're able to throw the ball like this regularly, or at least somewhat regularly, with some level of consistency, that's going to allow Bijan Robinson to really get things rolling on the ground. Because I believe this offensive line is really well put together. I think they can get stuff moving, and I'm excited to see that. And then C.J. Stroud continuing his solid season, man. This was a little bit more of a down game for him, I think, but you can't win them all. And C.J. Stroud was still pretty good in this football game. He put his team in position to win at the end of the game. So what more can you ask of your rookie quarterback? But moving on to the next game in the 1 o'clock slate, the Indianapolis Colts and the Tennessee Titans. The Colts take this game with Gardner Minshew coming in relieving Anthony Richardson again this season. And Gardner Minshew playing good football again this season. Colts fans, I'm sure, are happy to see that. Anthony Richardson, though, I just want to touch on him for a moment here. It really sucks to see the guy get hurt, but there is a trend here forming. I really hope he stays healthy when he comes back. I think he's going to miss about a month or so. But he was injured pretty consistently at Florida. I know they had touched on changing up the playbook a little bit to limit his exposure to hits, but I think it's going to be, I hope not one of those things, but there's a trend forming, and that's just kind of his play style at this point in time. Although he's been a lot better as a passer than I thought he would be coming into the NFL. Zach Moss, man, ran that football down their throat. 23 attempts for 165 yards, 7 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns. And Jonathan Taylor getting some action here. Only 6 carries for 18 yards. They're getting him back into the works. And, man, that's going to be a two-headed monster if Zach Moss can continue to play like that. Him and Jonathan Taylor, these Colts need to start being taken seriously, even if it is Gardner Minshew leading this show. And then the other side of things, Ryan Tannehill, not his best performance, but it wasn't a train wreck. That's kind of what it's been. It's either been good for Tannehill or a train wreck. And so finally got some middle ground here. Derrick Henry struggled to get things moving on the ground, but D-Hop had a game. He had himself a game, 140 yards to the air, and the vocal point of this offense, if it's not going to D-Hop, it's going to Henry. So fun to watch that. But the Colts take this one and keep rolling.
Yeah, a couple takeaways I got is just DeAndre Hopkins. Back, I guess you can say. Big game out of him. Need this is kind of, I think, Tennessee's identity at this point. It's either going to have to be DeAndre Hopkins or Derrick Henry for them to win games. And then just, I kind of like what I said with Chicago, just somebody else has to step up in the wide receiver room other than DeAndre Hopkins. Somebody. And I just think, looking forward, I'm kind of interested to see what they do with the Henry and Spears kind of duo running, who get what touches, kind of looking forward because, they're letting him come in. I think it's good, though. It's a change of pace. I do, kind of wonder if Derrick Henry's maybe in the passing game a little bit more like we seen last year. Just he's not getting any of that this year now. So I kind of wonder what Derrick Henry we would be seeing if he was in the passing offense. But other than that, Tennessee, tried their hardest, but their defense just could not stop the run. I'll go to the Colts side real quick. I think Garner Minshew, I will say, when he comes in, the passing offense does look better. Josh Downs, both of his big games this year has came in when Minshew has came into the game. And I think Zach Moss, he's seen Jonathan Taylor's contract, and he said, hey, I'm still here, and I still got a job to do. So, Zach Moss, I will say that the Colts had a game plan, and it was run the ball straight up the middle, and somehow, some way, Tennessee could not stop it. At one point in the game, it might have been like the third quarter, I seen them pull up where Zach Moss is running, and it was just straight up the middle. He had like 2 attempts to the left and none to the right. So I just think maybe looking forward, Tennessee might need to look into that and just, I'm ready to see what this team kind of looks like with Garner Minshew going forward, just because I think it will be an offensive change. But I'm ready to see what Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, and what those wide receivers can be moving forward without having a running quarterback and knowing that, hey, we have to win our routes now.
Yeah, I'm with you. Moving on to the next game, the Miami Dolphins beat the New York Giants from a score of 31-16, and this game was a lot closer than it should have been. I would say, even though they won by 2 touchdowns, I think it could have been probably north of 40, and that includes a pick six being thrown right after an egregious missed call by the refs on a pass interference, but does not take away the play that preceded it. And it was a pick six. Tua tried to force the ball and got tipped up in the air. Giants defender caught it and ran it back. I would say overall, though, the offense looked explosive. That one turnover and then a turnover later in the game. Tua steps up in the pocket and he goes to throw and it hits Connor Williams, the center's helmet, and floats right over Jalen Waddle into the hands of the defender. And I would say Miami looked to try to get Jalen Waddle involved as much as they could in this football game because he's kind of been quiet so far this season, and he's an integral part of this team, man. To get the best version of the Miami Dolphins offense, that's going to include Jalen Waddle. So they need to get him rolling, try to get the ball into his hands a little bit more, and that's what they tried to do in this football game. Ended up forcing it, turning the ball over one time, but I think it was worth just kind of seeing what you can get away with, and that's what I think happened there. But on the other side, the Giants, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Devon Achane, 11 carries for 151 yards, quickly emerging as one of the best running backs in the NFL, but unfortunately suffered a knee injury in this football game. That was kind of took me by surprise because it came back in the game later on, but was recently placed on injured reserve and is going to miss some time. And for Miami, it looks like after the bye, they're looking at getting Devon Achane, Teron Armstead, and Jalen Ramsey. All of those guys coming back. That's awesome right there. And then the Giants struggled pretty bad offensively. They did get 3 field goals in this game. That was with them getting the ball, I think, within our 30-yard line. A pick 6 was involved in there. And their leading rusher was Eric Gray for 12 carries for 25 yards, 2.1 yards per carry. Daniel Jones ran a couple times. Matt Breida, 9 carries for 21 yards. They just couldn't really get a whole lot going offensively between Daniel Jones, who left with a neck injury in this football game, who I think is going to be okay. I think he probably does play next week. But between Daniel Jones and Tyrod Taylor, suffered 7 sacks after the week prior suffering 11 versus Seattle. So they really got some problems going up front. That doesn't include their lack of weaponry and on the outside, and missing Saquon's huge for this team. And the defense it's a wreck, man. It is. So not a whole lot of hope for the Giants moving forward, but the Dolphins came in and handled their business.
Yeah, I mean, you really covered a lot. I'm not going to really speak too much on the Dolphins because I think you really hit on everything on that side. But just the Giants side, I just think, I seen something that was crazy to me is the Giants hadn't scored an offensive touchdown in 85 minutes, almost 2.5 games. So, I mean, something has to happen offensively. I don't know what's going on. I mean, they finally did get Darren Waller to have a good day. I mean, what they really wanted him to come to this team for. And, I mean, he had, I think, a good day for him at his age, at this point in his career. And I just kind of just no one else is there. I mean, that's the truth. I guess you can say just none of these wide receivers are stepping up or being anything for this offense. I don't know if that's Daniel Jones. I'm not going to point it to him because, I mean, you just said he got sacked how many times this game? I mean, that's kind of been every week. I mean, every week he's running for his life. I mean, really. So I just think, they're missing Barkley a lot, like you were saying, and just maybe see when Barkley come back what the offense is then. But right now it's just the Daniel Jones contract looks like a terrible thing. I mean, we kind of was on that very early and just, I mean, if there wasn't so much money tied in Daniel Jones, I'd be interested to maybe see what Tyrod Taylor, a veteran, could do maybe in the offense to see if he can get something moving. But with Daniel Jones' contract, expect him to be the starter no matter what. But Giants, it's rough.
Yeah.
Then
All
let
right.
me look real quick.
I got to pull it up. You want me to go ahead or?
I got you real quick, man.
Go
I
ahead.
don't want saying who the team is. No, and no. All right, the Saints and the New England Patriots. Goodness, Bill. I will say Derek Carr, I mean, didn't really have a great day. I mean, this really, when you look at this was a Saints defensive game. Their defense played great, what people expect their defense to be. They did this game. Derek Carr was 18 for 26, 183, 2 tutties. I will say, I think Derek Carr came back a little too early from the shoulder injury and probably holding him back a little bit. I will say Alvin Kamara, I mean, they let him be in the offense, let him have 22 carries, 80 yards, 1 touchdown. I think that's good since he did kind of just come back from his suspension. This is only his second game. And then this what blows my mind is you have Michael Thomas leading in receiving. Didn't pay much attention to this game just because it got ugly quick. But just on the Patriot side, it's kind of what I want to kind of beat the drum on. It's just, I mean, it looks bad. I think I do have a little fact behind them real quick. It's just Patriots have been outscored 72-3 in their last 2 games. And then the last thing is the Patriots have gone 31 straight drives without a touchdown. So just the offense isn't clicking. Bill O'Brien got there. The offense is going to be, what Matt Jones ran in college. Things were going to change. And I think just ultimately it comes down to the wide receivers can't create space. None of them can. And then Juju went down with a concussion. Don't really change anything. And just my big thing is Stevenson. Why are they not using him like they did last year? I mean, he's not in the passing game like he was. They're trying to give Zeke carries, and I just don't think that's smart at this point either. I just think, I mean, Stevenson needs to be their front runner, lead guy to kind of carry this team. And I just think Matt Jones, Bill Belichick ain't saying the benches are happening because of him, but I mean, if he ain't benching him because of his play, he might want to start thinking about that. But just, I don't know what New England can do at this point. Honestly, I think at this point you maybe want to go ahead, and I hate to say it, but look maybe to the offseason. I think Patriots fans will not believe that's ever been said to them, and since, definitely Tom Brady's been there. But I just think moving forward, you might want to be playing for a pick at this point and kind of trade a lot of these veterans that you have that have been on this team for a very long time and move forward and kind of rebuild this thing, because you're seeing your division and what's going on in that just their division. Forget the rest of the league, and just what they have here right now is just not keeping up with today's NFL.
It's not, man, and I just keep coming back to this roster's depleted from talent, man. It's just poor draft after poor draft after poor draft, poor free agency decisions. It finally is building up, and it's really becoming hard for this Patriots team to have any sort of level of success because they just don't have playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. They suffered injuries to their two best players on defense, and now they can't stop a cold, and now they can't play situational football. I mean, they're down. They got to throw the football, and it's just ugly, man. They ain't got guys that can make stuff happen after the catch. They don't got guys that get open. Mac Jones is a very limited player in his own right, and so, man, I don't have a whole lot of hope here. And New England's philosophy, if you will, is more so run the football, play good defense, win in the margins, and outcoach the other team. Well, even if Bill Belichick outcoaches the other team, his roster's so bad that it doesn't matter because he's just going to lose. It's Jimmy's and Joe's over X's and O's, right? You got to have players, and the Patriots don't have players. And if you boil that down, you point your finger at the person whose fault that is, it's Bill Belichick's. Put aside the great head coach narrative. He was a great head coach. He might still be a great head coach if he had players on this roster. But guess who's fulfilling the GM role of this football team? It's Bill Belichick. So they don't have a whole lot of young players to build around. I think they need to tear it down. They got to fire Bill Belichick, and they got to restart. I've been saying it. I'm going to keep preaching it. This team is not a competitive NFL football team, and if they continue down this path, they're lying to themselves. Moving on. Oh, yeah, I got to give some credit to the Saints, man. They did play a good football game. The defense looks legit. Derek Carr, like you said, came back a little early, but still, Michael Thomas getting involved. Chris Olave only had 2 catches for 12 yards in this football game. Michael Thomas really leading the way for the receivers, which is good to see, honestly. If you're a Saints fan, you like to see this offense continuing to take steps, even if it is a Derek Carr that's not 100%, and that is adding Alvin Kamara back into this equation with Kendre Miller, young rookie out of TCU, getting some action as well, which is exciting. But anyway, moving on to the next game, which was the Chase's Baltimore Ravens losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I didn't see this one coming. I'm not going to lie. I did pick Baltimore, and it took me by surprise because I am very low on Pittsburgh. I've kind of made my thoughts known on the pod. But, things happen, things change, opinions change. George Pickens can continue to play the way he did in this football game. I have some hope for him because did he play good? Absolutely, he did. Although I want to see some more. I'm not super high on George Pickens. I do think he lacks separation ability and route running, but his contested catching's kind of always been there. I comped him to Devontae Parker, I think, last week or the week before, just because the style of player he is. And I do think that is the style of player he is, maybe a little bit better, because Devontae Parker had some good years too. Anyway, Baltimore, I really think it comes down to this in this football game, and it was the receivers for the Baltimore Ravens lost them this football game. Lamar did his part. They just got to catch football, man. They got to make stuff happen, and I pity the Baltimore fans out there. I know they were thinking this problem was finally fixed. They go out and they invest all these resources into the receiver room to elevate this so this wouldn't be a problem. And here it is, rearing its ugly head, and it is still a little bit of a problem. Although I do think it's going to get better as offense continues to gel. Zay Flowers comes into his own as a player. But Rashad Bateman's still the same old Rashad Bateman. Can't stay on the field, and even when he is, he's not doing a whole lot. Nelson Aguilar, back to the Eagles days, I guess, because went right through them hands, boy. And then
Right through them. God.
Odell Beckham is getting up there, man. So we'll see. I think my opinion has changed on Baltimore a little bit from this football game, though. But yeah, I don't have a whole lot else to say here. I'll let you touch on whatever else you got, Christian.
Yeah, my big thing is Lamar played probably the best game he's played all year. It just really, what Brian said, the wide receivers let him down. I mean, he had, I think it was like 6 drop pass. The one that really got me was Zay Flowers' deep ball. He took like a very bad angle on it. He turned around, tried to like back step catch it, and just fell. I mean, I don't know what he was trying to do there, but I mean, his right there, and then Nelson Aguilar's his. Both of those, if they get caught, touchdowns. I mean,
Yep.
that's really what they are, and this game's totally different. And I just don't know. I mean, I'd love to hear Chase's opinion. We'll definitely have to ask him on the next pod just to hit about it real quick. But on the Pittsburgh side of things, man, their defense, I mean, I don't know what to take of this defense. It is a rivalry game, but just Kenny Pickett, man, he looked all right this game. Not good, not great, not bad, just okay. And I don't know what Pittsburgh can do moving forward because I know they're not going to keep games like this every weekend and week
Fire
out.
Matt Canada
But
ASAP.
yeah, that's my big thing. Play calling's not that great, and just George Pickens, I will say he played a great game, and they need to get him in the offense some way, some form. That's really their only bright star offensively in my eyes right now. To Najee Harris, like I've done said multiple times, just slow. Like he just looks slow. And then Warren, I will say, like in the running back room, man, that is a bright spot, but just Pittsburgh won't pull the plug on it and let him kind of be that guy yet. And I don't know if it's just they think Najee's there, something there in Najee that it just hadn't unlocked yet. But I think no, just God, the offense needs to change. Their defense played great. I will say the block punt that was a safety could have easily been called a touchdown. I mean, I thought it was a touchdown, but just when that happened, the game kind of flipped script very quickly after that happened. And just the last thing that kind of killed Lamar on me was just the interception was bad. But I mean, he's been let down over and over. So I think just you seen him on the sideline, his helmet took a beating, and not by the Pittsburgh defense, by him. I mean, that thing ate dirt a lot when he was going to the sideline. But that's all I'm going to talk about on this game. Just I'm ready to see both of these teams maybe in this next week when we look ahead, on the next pod. And I kind of see what they do in those games moving forward.
I got you. So moving on to the next week's game, the Philadelphia Eagles win 23-14 against the Los Angeles Rams, and I guess the main takeaway I have for this football game is the Eagles continue to inch out these close football games, and man, they just controlled this game start to end, and it wasn't like the Rams are ever really in this football game. It looks a lot closer than I think it was. Philly just killed it, man. Ran the rock, kept the ball, continued to convert on third down, and I just think it's impressive that they can just continue to find ways to win week in and week out, numerous different ways, through the air, on the ground. Their defense can win them football games, and Jalen Carter is an absolute menace, man. He's just, I think he should win Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year, at very least. I think he's really going to be a generational talent, man. I think he's everything he was hyped up to be, and this Eagles defensive line is really good, so that helps him get one-on-one opportunities, but man, they were double teaming him. He was just making it happen. He's a really good player, man. And I'd also love to see DeAndre Swift continue to emerge here. Only 17 carries for 70 yards, but he also tacked on 38 yards through the air, and just a good all-around player that fits this Philly offense to a T. And one of the better off-season moves that happened, trading for DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, my takeaways is, finally Dallas Goedert did get involved in this Eagles offense that we've seen a lot last year. And he finally, had a big game. I think moving forward, they need to try to get him involved. But with that being said, I think this Eagles team have too many mouths to feed. They had Swift going, A.J. Brown, Dallas going, and then where's Devontae Smith?
Yeah.
just not existent. But I guess in a way, I guess it's kind of like what we've been saying at this 49ers offense. It's just not your week. Maybe next week, Smith, we got you. But I think just the Eagles, like Brian said, when it comes down to the wire, they find ways to win. And just on the Rams side, man, I will say one thing: Cooper Kupp
Yeah.
is still him. I mean,
That
he
Cooper
ran the
Cup
same
taking the
route
Kulas. Whew.
back-to-back plays and was not wide open, but just in the middle of the field, snagged it back-to-back times. But the whole, Puka Nakua and Cooper Kupp, how is that going to exist together? Matthew Stafford said, don't worry, he's got it under control, because
Yeah.
I think Matthew Stafford's very happy that he's got these two guys, and just moving forward, I think the Rams offense, people might want to watch out, because if Matthew Stafford stays healthy, which he's already took a couple shots this year, that's why I'm kind of worried about the health. But if he stays healthy, this offense is going to be tough. And I mean, their defense maybe, to play a little bit better, then this team can make some noise. But I will say Williams has kind of been down for the last 2 weeks. Their running back just hadn't really had big games, but it's because what we just said, these wide receivers on this team, they're good enough. They need to get the ball, and that's what, I mean, Sean McVay, he knows that, and that's why he's letting his playmakers get the ball. But just great game out of both sides, and I'm ready to see what this team is with Cooper Kupp moving forward for the Rams side.
Yeah.
And then I got you.
You going to talk about the next one?
Yeah, my bad. I've been slacking.
You good.
Cincinnati and Arizona Cardinals. Man, if you would have told me what happened, I wouldn't have believed you, because Joe Burrow has been brought back to life from the dead. I mean, this guy, anything I said on the last episode, he told me to shut the hell up. Because, I mean, he came out there and played his greatest game, and Jamar Chase on his side, I mean, he told him, hey, I'm open. I mean, 15 catches, 192, 12.8 average, and 3 tutties. I mean, he was having a field day. Anytime Joe Burrow needed something, that's where it went. Joe Mixon got a big workload, just couldn't really make much out of it. He had the 81 yards, 3.2 average. I mean, Joe Mixon it seemed like he's missing a step this year. And to me, he's just not explosive as he was, it seemed like. So, I mean, they're kind of missing P-Ron a little bit is what I'd say. And just, Trenton Irwin. Higgins went down, and somehow this guy stepped up to the plate. Didn't really know much about him because, really didn't pay attention to what Cincinnati's kind of been, because it's just been so ugly on offense. But Tyler Boyd's still there too, so I'm ready to see what next week, definitely, if this offense plays to this level. On the Cardinal side, James Conner is hurt. I think that's a big key for this team. He's got the knee injury. So I think moving forward, the Arizona Cardinals we've kind of been seeing this season might not be the same Arizona Cardinals moving forward. I mean, Joshua Dobbs, was Joshua Dobbs' step back to reality, who he is maybe game. He was 15 for 32, 166, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I will say the interceptions were when, he was trying to come back maybe a little too hard. And then I will say that Hollywood Brown, they had him early in the game a lot. Arizona was using him, and they just went away from it for some reason. But I will say that, Arizona's going to be one of those teams that fight hard. They're not going to go down without a fight. But James Conner's a big question mark now for this team, what they're going to be identity-wise. And just Cincinnati, are they back to life is my question maybe.
Yeah. So, I don't think the Cardinals are good, and this doesn't change my mind. It didn't confirm my thoughts, nothing like that. I just knew they weren't very good, and I did pick the Bengals to win this football game, and I have a stat line that wasn't from this game, but from a game earlier this season against the Cardinals. I want you to tell me who this is, Christian. it's quarterback. 26 of 37, 321 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Okay.
1 pick. Any idea?
The passing yards again?
321 yards passing.
321 yards. Oh, I'm trying to think. They play what? Commanders, Giants, Cowboys, 49ers.
This player also
it's
had
either Brock Purdy
on the ground
or Sam Howell. Then I'm gonna go Sam Howell.
It's Daniel Jones.
I couldn't do it, bro.
Almost 400
they
yards.
They did win. That was their only win, bro. I just could not get into Daniel Jones.
Yeah, that was Daniel Jones. I think altogether he has I think the last 2 weeks combined, he didn't throw for 321 yards. So,
Yeah, no.
and then the 2 other weeks I didn't add there, he threw for under 140 yards in those 2. So, yeah, Daniel, the Cardinals are not good by no means, but I think this is the exact kind of game to get the Bengals back on track, get it rolling, get Joe Burrow back into a rhythm, and just kind of get this offense back somewhat to what it was last year. I don't know that it's there, but it's a dang good start to getting it back. Obviously, their best player, Jamar Chase, 200 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns. What a day. But yeah, I think the Cardinals are having the exact kind of season they want to have. Be competitive, be scrappy, but take the L anyway. Get that early pick. Get you a quarterback, man. Caleb Williams still very well could go here. I don't think it's going to be Chicago. But anyways, moving on to the next game on Week 5 slate. The Denver Broncos versus the New York Jets.
I picked the Jets, baby. Who'd you pick, Brian? I forgot.
I picked Denver, man. I did. I picked
Oh,
Denver, and
Lord.
I didn't love it, but man, I probably should have seen this coming just from the ground game. Because they cannot stop the run. Denver cannot stop the run, and that is their Achilles heel, man. They cannot do it. They gave up 177 yards rushing to Breece Hall coming off the ACL injury, finally looking like himself in this football game. And then Zach Wilson tacking on some yards on the ground as well. He didn't have the best game through the air, but it was definitely a competent performance by Zach Wilson, albeit this Denver defense is not good. If it was a time to have a good game or a game where you should expect Zach Wilson to have a good game, it was this one. Even with the running game going, you should probably get some stuff going through the air. Although I'm not going to harp on it too much because he didn't have a bad game. He had 200 yards passing, no touchdowns, did have a pick, though, got sacked 4 times, and did lose 2 fumbles. But when you compare that to Zach Wilson, that I know, that's better. And then something I was a little bit surprised, Dalvin Cook only got 6 carries in this football game for 23 yards. Premier offseason edition Dalvin Cook. It's not a whole lot going for him so far this year, but it's nice to see the Jets get back in the win column and get things rolling again, even if it is against Denver. And Russell Wilson continues to play better than he did last year, although it doesn't matter because their defense can't stop a cold. And they didn't really run the ball a whole lot either. I know they were missing Javonte Williams in this football game, which obviously hurts a lot. But yeah, I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time on this one, unless you got stuff to add, Christian. I know this is your New York Jets here.
Yeah, my quick little ads, just Garrett Wilson. I wish they can somewhat involve, but when Breece Hall, no more limit count, let him carry the rock, and this is what you get. I'm all for. I think moving forward, that's what the Jets are going to try to be till we seen Dalvin Cook. They still did work him in, but only 6 carries, nothing much. But like Brian, so I'm not going to beat the drum, but I do, as a Chargers fan, want to beat on the Denver Broncos drum just a little bit. But, just 5 weeks into the season, Denver has lost to their former head coach and Josh McDaniels, defense coordinator Jack Del Rio, head coach Vic Fangio, ball boy Mike McDaniel, and former head coach Nathan Hackett. So I just think, that's a rough look for them. And just the last thing I'd add for Denver is just, Russell Wilson's playing great still. I don't think he played bad this game, but just, his wide receivers aren't doing much. The leading receiver in this game was P. Ryan. That's your running back. 4 catches, 73 yards. And I just think maybe they need to try to get this running game going to when they were running. It was working. And they just kind of went away from it. And I just think Russell Wilson, I would be kind of, looking forward to see how him and Sean Payton are moving forward. Because when he fumbled the ball and it got took the other way for pretty much the closer, Russell Wilson didn't look at him, kind of walked off, and Sean Payton said, I don't know really what he said, but you can tell there's something building there. So I think moving forward, knowing, 1, who Russell Wilson is, and then 2, knowing who Sean Payton is, what goes on from here on out. Yeah, that's, we kind of said that early in the pod, but just moving forward, what the Russell Wilson and Sean Payton is going to be, because right now it just looks like This is going to be a long season for the Denver Broncos.
Whew.
And then I got you real quick. The next game, a good game. I mean, it was a great game. Probably did not expect it to be. And that is the Chiefs versus Minnesota. And I will say, kind of, go ahead, get all the bad news out. Is just Jefferson is going to miss 4 weeks. And then when he does come back, it's a bye week. So technically missing 5 weeks. And then on top of that, Travis Kelce had the ankle injury. No one touched him. Kind of took a weird step. It kind of looked like when they showed the replay. Did come back into the game. I think he will be fine, but I will say the only concern I have for the Chiefs side, this is a quick turnaround. They're playing on Thursday. So if something is going on there, Travis Kelce's going to have to figure it out quick. But I'll go ahead and start, I guess, on, the winning team side, and that is Patrick Mahomes played great, 31 for 41, 281, 2 touchdowns. I mean, just what you expect out of Patrick Mahomes. Ain't going to beat the drum too hard on that. But I will say I do like how KC's giving Pacheco, good carries, a good number amount. He's showing that he could be a good running back. But, I mean, he only did have 55 yards and only averaged 3.4. But he's a hard runner, mean runner. I like to see that. And just, I mean, it was Travis Kelce show receiving-wise. And we'll say Rice is getting, to me, I understand he's not open or, you can say he's not open, but I will say I'm liking that they're giving him production. He only had 4 catches, but I think moving forward that this could be a guy you might want to look out for because, I mean, he did have the 1 touchdown, and then Ross did get involved into the game. He had only the 2 catches, though. But moving forward, I like to see what they do with Ross. But Tony kind of did have an okay game. They kind of get him a little short passes, just try to create something. But on the Viking side, it's just I'm going to looking forward. I ain't going to talk too much about this game, but I will say Jordan Addison had a good game, 6 for 64. TJ Hawkinson was 5 for 51, but I will say just moving forward, and even in this game, the running game is non-existent for Minnesota, and now you're telling me they're missing their wide receiver 1. So you're looking at, I would say a TJ Hawkinson being your leader probably in the receiving area for this team. Maybe a Jordan Addison. If you hit on that pick, I'm not going to say you hit yet, but he's showed promise. Yeah. And if anybody could be that promise to break out, I would go with him because KJ Osborne, we've seen what he is kind of already. I think he's a good number 2. He will never be your number 1. But just moving forward, and if they don't start getting some wins, I mean, we have already heard this season Kirk Cousins trade talks. And if that falls quickly and then you see GM is trading veteran pieces that they do have left on that defense in their last year of their contract, just this can fall apart very quickly for the Vikings if, these next 2 weeks do not end up with at least a dub in one or the other.
Yeah, and, you hate to see it, Minnesota, and all these one-loss games, man. It's kind of the reverse of what was going on last year when they were just narrowly squeaking out wins left and right, all the way to a 13-4 record. Seems quite the opposite this year. They're going to squeak by with 1-score losses all the way to the end here and have an early pick and draft quarterback. What you think, Christian?
No, I called it, early in, bro. I said all them 1-score wins is not going to happen 2 years in a row.
Yep, Alexander Madison. I'm not going to say a whole lot about him because I'm sure he's heard enough. All the fans talking about him, they've not been saying very nice things about him. I'll just leave it at that. And then, man, Kansas City, they've been playing some close games against teams that they really shouldn't be playing in the game with. They're playing down for their competition. You just got to think one of these games is going to bite them and they're going to take an L. I know obviously that happened in week 1 against Detroit, but I think we all know Detroit's legit. They are the real deal. I think one of these teams is going to end up stealing one from Kansas City this year if they continue to play like this. And you keep seeing Kansas City, although great quarterback play, struggling a little bit on offense. The ground game's never really been their specialty. It's through the air, Travis Kelce being the focal target in the passing game. He is getting a little bit older. He has been getting hurt here and there. Granted, it has been minor, but you got to think with a player of his age that continues to get so many targets, can he continue to keep it up year after year after year? And if not, they're going to have to do something to invest in this weaponry, especially on the outside, to give Mahomes another option when Kelsey's not there. I do think Rashee Rice is that guy that's going to step up and take those targets, but 4 catches for 33 yards and a touchdown is not exactly a game record. I think he needs to elevate his play a little bit and get him more involved in this offense. And then, yeah, man, we'll see. I don't think highly of Minnesota. I don't think they should have been in this football game, but here they are. And Justin Jefferson's out, and just don't know how well it's going to look going forward. But moving on to next week, a game that I was really excited to watch and was let down. The San Francisco 49ers blew the doors off the Dallas Cowboys 42-10. And Brock Purdy, man? Brock Purdy. Where's he at? Top 10? Top 5? MVP? What's Brock Purdy, man?
Top 10, brother. And this
Top
offense
10.
and how they're humming right now. No losses in the regular season for Brock Purdy yet on his career. Last pick of the draft, Brock Purdy.
You know what's crazy? I saw him come in for his first bit of play, and it was against Miami of all teams, of course. And Jimmy G goes down. He comes in, and he won that football game for him. He did. I mean, he looked good. And that was last year. Am I thinking of the wrong team?
No, it would have been last year, brother. He's only been in the league for 2 years.
Yeah.
You're good. Don't think so.
I'm just trying to remember
pretty
what
sure
happened.
you're right.
We lost that game. Miami did. But Brock Purdy played good. Anyway. Yeah, Dallas, man. They play so great against bad teams. As soon as they get some real tests, a good defense that goes up against that offense, Dak Prescott melts, man. He just, I don't want to speak too bad on the guy because he's also hurt it. 14-24, 153 yards passing, a touchdown, 3 picks, got sacked 3 times. And it just looks like this offense does not work sometimes. What do you think, Christian?
Yeah, I just want to hit on your Dolphins 49ers thing, Ty. You don't want you to go out sad, but Jimmy G was 2 for 4. Brock Purdy came in 25 for 37, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception.
Yeah, I remember.
And then on y'all's side, it was 2 was 18 for 33, 295, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
Yeah,
17-33. It was a bad one. That's why I don't blame you for muting that one out.
It was a 1-score game in the fourth quarter when Tua threw a pick 6 at the end.
Okay. Okay. Well, moving on to this season, going into this game, my big thing on the preview pod was if Dallas plays this close, they're among those elite teams, is what I kind of went into this game saying, because we didn't really know what Dallas was until I think we still maybe don't. I mean, this is a team, I'll go ahead and say, I think the 49ers are probably the best team this year. Like right now, we've seen 5 games of just dominance. And I will say, on the Cowboys side, man, I just want to say, for a Chargers fan, thank you again for Kellen Moore. And it looks like your offense is working wonderful since y'all booed him out. And, Dak Prescott was 14 for 24, 153, 3 interceptions. Running game was non-existent just because, it was ugly. And I will say on the 49ers side, I don't want to beat the drum too bad for Dallas fans, but just on the 49ers side, Brock Purdy, elite, top 10 quarterback right now probably.
Better than Dak
your leading rusher wasn't Christian McCaffrey. Huh?
Better than Dak Prescott.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I will say, this was a George Kittle game. 3 catches, 62 or 67, 3 tutties. And this is like I said for the Eagles, just you pick who you want that week, they'll get it cooking for you. Just whoever you want. George Kittle has arrived this game. We seen Debo a couple weeks ago, Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey. At this point, I'm just waiting for the random guy on this team to be the next one that has the showing out party. So just 49ers dominant. We seen Sam Darnold take a knee. Good to see old Sam Darnold to be the backup for a long time, it seems like. But Brock Purdy and 49ers. On to the next. Green Bay Raiders. Good game, great game. Kind of was not a pretty game, I will say, but a very close game, I will say. Stat-wise, I won't start with Jordan Love. Jimmy Garoppolo, 22, 31, 208, one tutty, one interception. Josh Jacobs, they did try to give him involved, had the 20 carries, just cannot get nothing on the ground this year. The offensive line's not that impressive for the Raiders, but just they're trying to get Jacobs going. I'll give him credit. Just 69 yards, 3.5, one tutty, and just Jacoby Myers, man. What New England, we've always talked about DJ Moore, but Jacoby Myers, what New England maybe could have done this year with a good receiver. Because, Jacoby Myers has been a good weapon for them this year, I will say. He had the 7 catches for 75 yards, 1 touchdown, and, he's been open. There ain't no somebody
Yep.
on him. He's been open. And that's something New England's missing. Then on the other side, or not the other side, but just Devontae Adams, shoulder injury. I think that's why you didn't see a big game out of him. I think there's more to that shoulder. I think he was more out there to be a decoy this game, to be honest with you. That's just my opinion. And I just think, at the end of the day, it worked, but it kind of didn't work because their offense was playing so great because it really wasn't. Just on the other side, Jordan Love, 16 for 30, 182, 3 interceptions. A.J. Dillon played probably his most impressive game of the year since getting, saying he is the starter. He had the 20 carries, 76 yards, 3.8, 1 touchdowns. Receiving wise, I'll just sample it by saying it was a 2-man show. Luke Musgrave, Christian Watson. Christian Watson had some good catches. There's only 3, but he was showing that that elite speed that we've seen already last season. But coming back from the injury, good to see out of him. But Jordan Love, man, on the season, 8 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I think I will say even the Green Bay Packers defense player came out and said that this is a young offense, and we're seeing that now. The defense has to play better if we're expecting to win games. I don't think that should be the guy to come out and say it in Isaiah. But just, man, I don't know what to take for Jordan Love, honestly, because this is against a bad defense. This defense isn't elite, not a good defense at all, and they kind of just had Jordan Love's number. So moving forward, Jordan Love, to me, I just don't know what to kind of look at him right now as. But I know one thing, Aaron Rodgers ain't never have a game that he threw 3 interceptions for in a Green Bay jersey.
I think he has. I think he
No,
did.
I don't think he has.
I'm definitely not ready to press sell on Jordan Love, man. I think this year is really I wouldn't say like trial and error year, but I definitely think it's going to take some time for this offense to gel. The pillars of this offense are Jordan Love, Christian Watson, Luke Musgrave, and then probably Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is the established player, but he was out in this football game. A.J. Dillon, if you want to consider him a pillar, go ahead. He is a young running back, but Jordan Love is a really young player. Christian Watson is a really young player, and Luke Musgrave is a rookie. I think it's just going to they're going to have these games, man, where things just aren't working, things are ugly, and Jordan Love is lost out there. And that's what it looked like to me in this game. Even the completions he had were like schemed up completions underneath, and some guys made some stuff happen, made stuff work, and it wasn't really Jordan Love making it happen. He did have some nice scrambles. And I think he showcased his arm talent on a couple throws here and there, dropping the arm angle and doing things of that nature. But definitely not the performance you wanted to see of Jordan Love, especially after having a hot start to the year. But I'm not going to harp on him too much, man. He's a young player. This is a young offense, and they got a good play caller. I think they'll get things going. At some point this year, it would be nice to have Aaron Jones back. I would say that as well. And this defense is pretty good. I think, really, Jordan Love handed this football game to the Raiders. And Max Crosby came and take it, man. He played his
taking
butt
over
off,
the
man.
league right now, bro. Any
Golly.
team they play, he's making noise.
Dude, every play I watched, Max Crosby. So, yeah, man. You got anything before we close the pod?
Just, the last little thing, like you were saying, I think Green Bay is the youngest team. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they're the youngest team in the NFL, and it kind of showed this week.
Yeah. Defense is loaded with young talent as well. I think Green Bay is really positioning themselves well in this division. See if they can compete with Detroit. But yeah, I think this concludes the pod today. We tried to move through these pretty quick, although we did still make it an hour. But hope everyone enjoyed. We'll be releasing this pod along with the Week 6 preview Thursday morning. So appreciate everyone who tunes in, and see you next time.
Peace.